So speaking of shooters, and let's continue that conversation. Right now, we're going to be playing Uncharted, the Nathan Drake Collection. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday afternoon. Welcome to How It's Done. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor here at Games Radar, and with me is Managing Editor Susan Arndt. Hello, Susan.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hello to the world! We are playing... I'm so excited right now, Susan. I am so excited to be playing this because I was one of those guys who thought, like, oh, I'm over Uncharted. I'm over Uncharted, and that's a thing of the past, and I'm done, and whatever. And now, after, we talked about it in the podcast this past week, I'm super excited about the whole thing. I'm very, very pumped to be back into the world of Uncharted.
Yep.
And hello everybody, howdy y'all, says Yodel, and Z-Syncs it gave me the phonetic spelling of how to say his name. So yeah, I think let's hop into Uncharted Drake's Fortune right out the gate. Because I think this is the one that's changed the greatest. Susan, what do you think? Easy or normal?
Let's go with easy, buddy.
You see, just for that, I'm gonna go normal because I'm good at video games.
You're just not.
I'm real good at video games. I'm getting in there. It'll let me.
Letty suggest and Single and Loving It both suggest Explorer.
That's not nice. Come on.
I just want to see you make progress while our guest is here.
I will make all kinds of progress. On that note, we will be joined in just 27 minutes by one of the people that has been stewarding the Uncharted series from the beginning. We are going to be talking to Naughty Dog's lead animator. Wait, that is not the full title. It's lead character animator at Naughty Dog, Jeremy Yates, who has been with the studio since 2002. He has been there since the Jak and Daxter days. And Uncharted has been his baby from the beginning. And so he will be hopping on with us at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm pretty excited about that. And man, so this is...
So can I mention the way I got into Uncharted?
Oh yeah,
because
please.
It's so ridiculous. It's just not like a normal person. Like a normal person goes, oh wow, this looks like a lot of fun, and it's like Indiana Jones meets Captain Malcolm Reynolds.
Right.
So that's no, not me, of course not. I wrote my favorite games of the year. As I do every year since I've been a game journalist, I always write my favorite games of the year list. And Josh Scher, who works at Naughty Dog, who worked on Uncharted, who is also an animator, emailed me to say, hey, why no Uncharted love? And I hadn't played it because I didn't have a PS3.
Oh, all right.
I'm like,
a lot of people didn't at that time in 2007. Right. A lot of people didn't.
Oh my God, they were expensive. And, it just wasn't worth it to me at the time. So one of the first things I did once I got a PS3 was pick up Uncharted and was like, well, God damn it. I wish I had played this so this could have been on my list because this game is fantastic.
Yeah, so do you remember, and God, I'm trying to remember when this was, because I'm not even sure if the PS3 was out. But there was a cover story in Game Informer about this new thing that Naughty Dog was making. Like, Naughty Dog is no longer doing Jak and Daxter for the PlayStation 3.
Really? Oh God, I don't even remember that.
And, well, so there were all of these... it even looked different back at the time, because they were going... So the way the color fades out as you're getting shot?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Back when this first preview came out, they were doing full black and white. Like, when you got shot, it would just be full black and white, and nobody would be able to see you. How do I take cover? Because I can't remember how to take cover.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm normal.
I'm gonna play on normal like a champion. I know how to do things.
I'm very good at video
I'm
games.
super good at video games.
I'm the best.
I would love to know... See, it's been so long since I played Uncharted 1 on PlayStation 3. In my head, this is just what it looks like.
Oh, yeah, no.
And that's
no,
that is not true.
I told you this before. I played the first Uncharted on a standard def TV, not HD. Ooh, you couldn't see a damn thing in that game.
Not the way to do it.
But I still enjoyed it. The cover is terrible in the first one. It tries very hard. Oh, wow, you just did some nice skating there.
That's right.
That was nice. La la la. Well,
this actually feels, like the cover is pretty snappy here.
Well, you will stick to everything.
Everything, yeah.
Whether you want to or not. It's like, no, you're going to take... the game is really just looking out for you.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's like, you should be crouched behind something right now. And, like, you'll go to take cover, and you'll do the Star Trek roll. These are things that they ironed out in later iterations of the game.
See, and like, it's so weird. We talked about this on the podcast last week as well, that they worked all of these things out in Uncharted 2.
Yes.
And then when Uncharted 3 very first came out, before it was patched, it was like they decided, all that progress we made, screw that. Let's not do that.
Let's go retro.
Let's go have it we'll have it control like crap. Ooh.
Yeah, there were bad control problems when that first came out, and I don't even remember why. But then they patched them, and it was okay after that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was the targeting. You would sit there and try to aim at somebody, and it just would not work.
Here's the thing: this dude was just crouched there by the crane.
Yeah.
Just like waiting. He's like, okay. Whenever you take a breath, whenever you're ready, I'll be here for you. It's cool. I don't want to rush you.
What? Am I gonna die? I might. Oh no. I'm not gonna die. I'm totally gonna live through this. I'm totally.
Z-Sync says that Uncharted 3 seemed like a rushed game.
Yeah, rushed is not necessarily the word I would choose. Like,
I do feel like it maybe made there were compromises to the vision made.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there were... and I'm very interested in talking to Jeremy about this. I'm hoping he is willing to go into some detail about it. There was a lot of talk early on about how Uncharted 3 was going to be it was going to double down on multiplayer and go even further into multiplayer focus, and it's going to have co-op, there's going to be co-op online mode, and maybe, just maybe, there's going to be a co-op campaign. The game shipped, there is no co-op campaign, and yet, when you're playing the game, there is always somebody hanging out with Nathan Drake.
Right.
There's always somebody there who is doing stuff with old Nate. And I'm curious if, that is a plan that they backed away from. Because I think that would go some way to, justifying the sort of awkward feeling that campaign ended up having compared to Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 just felt so complete and there.
Yeah.
And just, like, that game felt... to me, still, that feels like the thing that is just the most perfectly shaped thing that Naughty Dog has made.
No, I agree.
Including Last of Us. I love Last of Us.
I agree. Last of Us has some rough... It is overall genius.
Oh, yeah.
But it has some rough edges. But I'm looking at Sully right now. This is interesting to me, because if you gave him brown hair, take the gray out, like, give him some Grecian formula, and he doesn't look like someone who could be Nate's dad. The character model is slim. He doesn't move in a way that indicates that he's an older man.
Right.
So I'm definitely looking forward to talking about the animation challenge of, because I feel like Sully in 2 and certainly in 3, he's more clearly an older man.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. And the funny thing is especially in the shift from 2 to 3, And I know that this is a huge part of why you like 3 so much. I know that you really love 3. And part of that is that it really sort of nails that experience that everybody goes through of realizing, like, oh crap, my parents are people. They're not, like, they're not, you know, some sort of amorphous supernatural beings. They're human, they're gonna age, they're gonna die. And, you know, in that shift from 2 to 3, Sully, as a father figure, goes through that moment where he seems to age, like, all at once.
Right.
Like, oh man, that happened so quickly. And I wonder, like, was that intentional? Did they very intentionally try to age him up very quickly in Uncharted 3, or was that just, wow, our ability to animate and capture this character and really capture the performance is much better than it was when we started making these games 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, that's stuff I'm very curious about, because the characterization in these games is part of what makes them so timeless and so enduring. Like, yeah, the graphics aren't as good as a modern game is, and you know, the shooting in a lot of places is kind of generic, but it's, you want to hang out with Nate and Elena and Chloe and Sully.
Yeah.
You know, you want to spend time with these people. And part of that is the voice acting, and they actually move like people.
Oh man, they're just leaving Elena there. You're just leaving on that dock. See, I always saw this scene, and it, like, really freaked me out. Because that doesn't seem like there's anything else there. They're just leaving her there. Like, do they have Wi-Fi on that island? That sucks.
She'll be fine.
She'll be fine. She'll
be fine. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. She's got those roaming charges to deal with.
Ooh.
She's gonna.
Yeah, that's gonna be a bill. Yeah.
Man, all right, so everybody who is hanging out in the chat, if you're curious about the game Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, we encourage you to go to gamesradar.com. We have not one but 2 really awesome hands-on features about the game. Myself and Joe Screebles got to play it. We also have 5 separate video interviews with the primary creators in the game. We have the writer, we have the director, we have all the people. But I bring this up because I got to play this game by visiting Eidos Montreal, which is just, you know, a few hours north of me in Canada. And so I went, and I thought to myself, you know what, it's not going to be that big a deal if I don't, like, get some kind of international package for my phone. I'm going to go.
Oh, how wrong you are, honey.
It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I think Elena would probably get less charges than I would by calling somebody from that island that Nate and Sully just abandoned her on. It was like $2 per megabyte if you're using data.
Okay, wait. I can beat that. Okay? Yeah. So I, last year, almost this time last year, for his 40th birthday, I took my husband on a vacation to the island of Antigua.
Oh, yeah.
And I purposefully did not get a data package because I didn't want to use my phone. I mean, I'm on a beach. I'm on a tropical island with butler service. I should not be, you know, checking Twitter. This is not a thing I should be doing, right? But there was this little cat who would come join us for breakfast every morning on our patio. And so it may have had something to do with the fact that I gave her a saucer of milk every morning. That's possible. I'm not sure. So
you don't want to say one way or another.
I don't want to theorize, you know. So I took a vine of this adorable cat.
Oh no!
And uploaded it. Right, $100.
Wow, my God!
Yeah, that 6 seconds of video cost me $100.
Oh my God! See, like I love, because we're gonna look back in 5 years on this era of data prices like that, the same way that we look back on like long distance phone calls in the 90s. $20 to talk to grandma in California for 10 minutes, like that is done.
Yeah.
Something funny about the ground down there.
Yes, Sully, I know where the thing is. I know where you want me to go. I like the fact that I have not played Uncharted 1 in 5 years. and yet I knew I just like this is like reflex. I played this enough times. This is why I was confident about going with normal, Susan.
Okay.
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 I'm jump on these things. Oh no, wait. As I said that, and now
Speaking of Deus Ex,
yes.
You know, as much as I love the voice of Adam Jensen, Elias Tufexis is a friend of Games Radar.
Yes.
Great guy, wonderful guy. Starring in The Expanse on Sci-Fi in December, which looks wicked cool, I gotta say. I wouldn't want to hang out with Adam Jensen.
Oh no, no. He
He's
seems
not,
like a real bummer, doesn't he?
right? Like he's never. That guy is never gonna crack a joke.
Nah, you don't want to hang out with Adam Jensen.
You don't.
That's something I really enjoyed. So, and this is something I went into in my write-up of the preview version of Mankind Divided that they gave us our hands on with. There's almost no story in the stuff that they showed us. Even in like the prologue chapter, which is going to be the very beginning of the game. And one of the parts that is there is you are, Jensen is going to Dubai with this like special task force of people who are non-augmented, who are, sort of trying to police the burgeoning war between augmented and non-augmented peoples in the international landscape. And so Jensen's just like on an airplane with these guys, and there's one member. He's your Hudson equivalent of the Marines, of your augmented Marines.
Okay.
So he's like a little bit of a cocky dick, and something I like about like the few interactions that are there is like Jensen just rips on this guy constantly. Like all of a sudden he's Jokes McJokerson, and it doesn't like I kind of like that it's awkward because it's still Elias Tufexis' version of that character, so he sounds like very awkward and stiff trying to make fun of somebody, which I like. Z-Syncs, is the 60 frames per second smooth? I gotta say, so far, playing Drake's Fortune here, I am one of those people who, when you see a remastered version of an older HD game upgraded to 1080p and 60 frames per second, I have some trouble with that. Like the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition or Last of Us Remastered, I can't play in 60 frames per second. It makes me queasy. Not once have I had that problem right now. This just feels totally natural.
Single and Loving It brings up, I remember being blown away by his clothes getting wet and changing color and then drying. Me too.
Totally.
I was just like, oh my god, because in a bunch of Tomb Raider games, she'd go swimming and she'd come out and look exactly the same. So he did it, and his T-shirt was wet, and I was just like, oh.
Didn't they start doing the thing in? They started doing the thing in Tomb Raider 2, where she would come out and it was just like her shirt was a darker blue for like a little while. Did they start doing it there?
I feel like in one of the games, she would like shake her ponytail out.
Right. Yes.
And
that's
what
I'm thinking of.
That was kind of it. It's like, oh yeah, my braid's wet. But then, one of the things I loved in the reboot is that if you got your torch wet, it would go out.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when you get a torch wet. And it's such a stupid thing, but that doesn't happen in a lot of games because they're like, okay, you need a torch, so just forget the fact that you just got it wet. Whatever, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Susan, how do you feel about the thing where you have to press a button for a contextual action and it demands that you sit there banging on it for a while?
It depends on the action. Like here, if it's okay, so in this sequence that you're doing right now, he is pulling on something very heavy. Right? So that should feel difficult.
Yes.
Doing so hammering away on it makes sense to me.
All right.
And you can also see that you are making progress, right? Like he's pulling the chain but in most cases, I hate it. I think it's stupid. I think it's not fun. It's not engaging. It doesn't make you feel connected to the game. Like Shadows of the Damned is one that did this. You had to like pry open doors. God knows God of War did it.
Yeah.
And it's just not fun. And
Yeah.
I this is something I say to developers all the time. Like, stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, like this commitment to trying, like the illusion of some kind of immersion, like the illusion of immersion. Immersion is not, like, I feel like that's one of those words that's constantly popping up in our profession.
Well, sure, of course it is. Yeah.
Of course it is. And like what I am looking for being immersed when I play a game is not reality. I don't want to feel like I am there. I just want to be immersed in the experience of playing the thing.
Well, okay. So this goes back to movies, right? There are several different kinds of reality.
Yes.
There's the reality that is actual reality, and then there's the reality that is the reality that you want, where you get the essence of the experience and not the actual experience. If you talk about driving a car, like backing a car out of your driveway, first you got to go, you unlock it, you sit down, you close the door, you put your stuff down, you put the key in, you turn it, you do all of these things, and then you back the car out. And backing the car out is its own set of steps. Nobody wants to watch that in a movie.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you just want someone to just go. So you want the essence of the act, not the act. So give me the essence of opening a door. Right?
This is really embarrassing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. I turned on this torch,
Okay.
and I can't, so the volume is low enough that I can't hear Sully.
Oh, well then
Yeah.
listen to your boy.
Yeah, listen to my boy. So display, no, game, show me subtitles. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Give me those subtitles.
Shoot the hanging fire basket, says Hopper.
Oh, thank you, Hoplon. There we go. I knew there was something dumb that I was missing. I thought, for some reason in my head, I thought I had to pick up a torch and then light it and then walk over there. And I was like, where is the stupid, come on, torch? Torch time? That's not a thing. Everybody, just 5 minutes until we're going to have on Jeremy Yates of Naughty Dog hanging out with us to talk about his work. Not just the Uncharted collection, but the Uncharted series. He has been working on that for almost a freaking decade at this point.
Like, here's another thing. This is the essence of the reality. You know, he's raiding a tomb, and it's very exciting, and there's puzzles he has to figure out. The reality, it would smell really bad.
Oh,
There'd be tons of bugs everywhere.
Yep.
He'd be filthy.
Yep.
He'd be completely dehydrated.
Totally dehydrated.
He
And-
would have things coming out of his butt that were unholy.
How often, Susan, do you think about in when you're playing a video game what the state of your hands would be?
Oh my goodness.
I think about it all the time, like how much my hands would hurt, how scraped they would be, like what kind of horrible fungal rot would freaking Nate be dealing with?
Right. His fingernails would be filthy.
Just filthy,
Filthy.
just disgusting.
Like, when is this man brushing his teeth? He's
When is
not.
it-
He's in the jungle.
Never, and yet the half tuck persists. I gotta ask Jeremy about the half tuck.
Oh, well, okay, I will give you the answer about the half tuck.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
got
here's-
half
okay, so
tuck insights.
I do. This is why the half tuck is perfect for Nate Drake, because there are 3 states of a shirt: fully untucked,
Right,
fully tucked,
right.
and half tucked.
Half tucked.
Right. So if it's fully untucked, you look a little casual and sloppy. If you're fully tucked, you look a little uptight. And
little
also,
uptight.
let's be honest, if you're jumping around tombs,
Yeah, you're not gonna keep the tuck.
you're not going to keep the tuck. So half tuck, it's half business, half casual.
So here is my one point of contention there.
Yeah.
Han Solo goes full tuck.
Okay, but Han Solo,
Does Han Solo not count?
he doesn't count. You know why? Holster strapped to his thigh.
That's
Done.
true. Okay, yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good point. All right, so, okay. Yeah, the non-puzzle. I love that, like, he opens up his book, and it literally looks like cheats from an old Nintendo Power. Oh, hold on! Let me check Drake's old journal here. Oh, look at these conveniently numbered signs. Perfect. Alright. Cross thing.
Z-Sync also brings up a very, very, very important point. His hair would be flat.
Oh.
It'd be nasty.
And yet,
Like,
every game, it just looks prettier.
I know.
Well, that's another one that we'll talk to Jeremy Yates. We'll ask him about the Vidal Sassoon stylings of Mr. Drake here.
Oh, we're going to talk to him about the chest hair animation.
That's question one. Number one with a bullet.
Yeah.
All right, where are the
Oh, yeah.
other two?
Indiana Jones was full tuck, but it was the 40s, and untucked was just barbaric. True.
That's true. That's all
That's valid.
accurate.
That is completely true.
Which one is this? Which one is this? That's the face. That's the thing up there. All right, yeah. Where are... Oh, there we go. I see it now.
Also, dude would have broken his ankles. He would have shattered fragments of tibia and fibia sticking out everywhere.
Let's, not even... chill out on, the bone-shattering factor. Just, some wear and tear. I'm talking shin splints.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Just a mess this guy would be.
Splinters for days.
For just days. The poisonous critters and just Nathan Drake's life would just be horrible the entire time.
He's going to have the big welt from the spider bite because he forgot his EpiPen.
Right. Why don't we ever have that moment in Uncharted 3, you're lost in the desert. Why don't we have the moment it's like, Nate died of exposure. But what? What happened? Nate died of sunstroke. Oh, sunstroke. But why? Hey, Sully, thanks for all your help, guy. Thanks for really just sit. I wish every now and again you would look over and Sully'd be eating a hard-boiled egg. Just kick back. Yeah, Nate, I'm having a snack. Tell me when you're done messing up your cuticles forever. Does Nathan Drake strike you as a guy that would trim his cuticles? He seems like that kind of vain.
No.
No?
No. Okay.
That's not how he rolls.
He's a hair product guy, for sure.
Definitely.
But
definitely.
He is not getting a manicure.
He's got those Paul Mitchell products in the half tuck. That's the big secret.
Yes.
That big belt buckle is actually filled with Vidal Sassoon.
Wait here while I check it out.
Is that a thing still?
Yes.
Yeah, there's still such a thing as Vidal Sassoon?
There is, yes.
See, I'm just trying to keep things straight. Let's bring the man in here.
Oh, please, this is gonna be good.
Let's get old Jeremy Yates up in here. And look at that. It's very simple. Call an old Naughty Dog. As it rings up at this very moment. Hello?
Hello.
Jeremy Yates! But how? Oh, man, awesome. Thank you. I'm so glad. Every now and again, I have that moment where I see the Skype thing moving. I see that little, progress bar, and I'm like, you know what? I know what's going to happen. The stream is going to crash right now. The stream's going to crash. Skype is going to crash. A slow trickle of mayonnaise is going to be coming out of the bottom of my PC. And all of this is going to be a mess. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. If you are just joining us, it is 5 p.m. here on How It's Done. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at Games Radar. And I am joined at this moment by lead character animator from Naughty Dog, Jeremy Yates. Hello, Jeremy.
How are you doing?
Very good. I am thrilled that you could join us today, man. Also here on the line is Games Radar managing editor Susan Arndt. Hello, Susan.
Hello. Thanks for joining us, Jeremy. We are super stoked about this.
So, Jeremy, Susan and I were just knee-deep in a conversation about your old friend Nate Drake here, and
Sure.
I thought for a moment that Nate Drake seemed like the kind of vain dude that would trim his cuticles, and Susan disagreed, but we both concur that he's definitely a hair product guy. You know,
Yes.
can you offer some insight on this point?
Well, let's see. I guess going back to the history of his hair, it was actually modeled. The first time it was modeled, someone took a bunch of photos of my head and
Of your head?
sculpted it from my head. So there's remnants of me in there somewhere, but I think it's kind of evolved over the franchise. And I think before we could get it to really move, it looked like he had a lot of hair gel in there. So, he could like swim in the ocean and come out, and his hair is still perfect. So,
I love that it was
but you
your
want that.
hair.
You want that in a hero, you know?
yeah, it's something I kind of try to forget, but my parents or whatever won't let me forget.
Well, Jeremy, actually, I think that's a kind of a cool place to start. I
Sure.
know that your history with the Uncharted series sort of took some twists and turns. You've been with Naughty Dog for about 13 years now. And I know that halfway through the production of Uncharted 2, you took over not just the animation of the characters themselves in the game, but also in the cinematics. Is that right?
The in-game cinematics, so all
In-game
the interactive cinematics, yeah.
So tell me how the considerations of what needs to be going on with these characters has changed from when you started work on Uncharted 1 back in the day and moving on to 2 and being in charge of these cinematics. Like, do you need to think about things like, oh man, his hair is too perfect, we need to fix that, or we can't go about fixing his hair, we have other concerns?
Well, like every game you do as much as you possibly can. I mean, you always get it ripped out of your hands at the end of the production cycle, and there's so much kind of building on that happens, and every time it's hard for me to actually go back and look at previous games that we worked on because I just kick myself like, oh man, like I wish we could have done this, I wish we could have done that, but every game we have a new opportunity to like add on to those features and build onto those features. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about working on a sequel is that you kind of get that second chance to go back in and work on it. And I've been working on Uncharted nonstop for over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually been 11 years. My daughter was born right before I started the project, and she just had her 11th birthday. So, yeah, it's been a long and fun ride. So the history of it is we finished Jack 3 on the PS2.
Was that your first game with Naughty Dog, or were you
Jack
working on
2
Jack
is
2?
my first game. Yeah, so I got hired on originally to animate. I was interviewing to animate Jack. They wanted someone to take over the animation of Jack. And in the middle of my interview process, they kind of casually mentioned, oh, by the way, we're thinking of hiring someone to animate all the creatures. And I was like, oh, I would love to do that, And so I switched kind of what role I was even applying for. And from Jack 2 through Jack 3, I animated all the enemies, all the creatures, kind of everything you can see there. Anything that's not the player that moves, I would do. And then anytime I would finish production on that, then I would move on to the cutscenes. And then, all right, so this is going back to late 2004, early 2005, we were ready to start PlayStation 3. And so there was a small team of us that were kind of chosen to help figure out what this next thing would be. Bruce Straley is one of them, myself, and we had kind of a small team of artists and engineers. And I'm sure you've heard in previous articles or things, we went through a lot of different prototypes, a lot of different ideas. At some point, the whole thing was going to be underwater.
Did you always know that you wanted to shift from sort of cartoon characters to human characters? Were all of those early ideas like, we're gonna do people instead of...
You know, it was actually, yeah, it was a struggle. I mean, as an animator, we all came, you know, we had this like mentality of like, oh, we're like Pixar, we love to do keyframe animation, we love squash and stretch, we love like kind of like the antics of all that. And it's funny, in my job description when I applied, they said they're looking for someone who thinks that motion capture is a 4-letter word. and so it's like that was the culture and that was the mentality back then.
Wow.
And so then we it was coming from like Evan, like he was like, you know, we need to really kind of mature. We wanted to tackle a more realistic and more grounded game. And there was a lot of resistance, especially from the animation side, and then you were talking about motion capture. Whoa, what motion capture? You know, that's sacrilegious. Like, we can't do motion capture. And I was actually...
just out of curiosity, why do you think that there was such a stigma against motion capture at that time? In my head...
Because it used to suck,
Well,
man.
yeah, see, in my head, that's what I think. It used to suck. But did it? Like, did it actually suck, or did people just do it wrong?
I think there's two things. One, it was not that great. The data was really messy. There was a lot of noise. There was a lot of just like tedious work, just like making it not suck, right? And that just gives you a base. And then I think there was just kind of a fear of, well, what does this mean for the animation industry? What does this mean as an animator? All these skills that I've learned, what do I do with them now? And it was kind of a very similar shift when animation went from 2D cel-shaded, hand-drawn, to CG animated. There was a huge shift in the industry where you have all these kind of old school people that just like, they wanted nothing to do with a mouse and a computer. Like, it was just like, what? This is going to look terrible. And at the time, it was a lot more difficult. You couldn't get the silhouettes that you wanted on the computer. And so I feel like it's kind of been a very similar shift with motion capture. Like, what I would look at as an animator back on Jak and Daxter series versus the way I animate now it feels more like we're working on a live-action movie. And it instead of sitting at my desk with the lights out, clicking away at a mouse, I'm interacting with people, I'm on the set, I'm working with actors. It's much more of a collaboration. And so for me personally, like, I've really grown to enjoy it. It feels like we're making little movies and we're playing in our backyard.
So tell me a little bit more. You were telling before we started talking about motion capture being a 4-letter word, which is now my favorite thing in the world. You were talking about that sort of genesis stage of birthing Uncharted and going through all of these different prototypes and ideas. So tell me how has the act of creating these little movies changed over the past 11 years at this point?
Well, it's become a lot more sophisticated. I remember the first couple motion capture shoots. We shot Drake in a Jeep, and we thought, like, well, it might be a great idea to rent a Jeep because we needed to sit in something that's the size and shape of a Jeep. So we rented a Jeep and brought it into the stage and like captured the actors like in this Jeep, and we thought that's the proper way to do it. And now we realize, like, okay, that's totally ridiculous. We don't need that at all. And we've gotten much more efficient at building things. We have this this whole library on the stage of, they look like giant building blocks. And they come in all the different sizes. Like, we have 1 meter, square boxes, and 1x2s, and 20 centimeters by such and such. So you literally have we have an entire like warehouse back area of building blocks. And so we get to go and just like make stuff. And so we can make a Jeep out of blocks, and with seats and a steering wheel and all this kind of stuff. And we're able to do it actually pretty quickly. Like, once we kind of figure out like, okay, these are all the pieces we need to do, we can put it together in like 15 or 20 minutes. I actually have a time-lapse video that I did of us putting together the Jeep. But it shows kind of like we're learning as we go, like what's needed, what's the most efficient way to do it. I remember also on Uncharted 1, I built this kind of custom built this entire hole of Sully's plane, so the actors could climb into it and open the door and all that kind of stuff. And it's like we wouldn't really do that anymore. We'd come up with like other ways to do it. So I think it was kind of like a process of production and figuring out what's necessary. And then for the gameplay, I think I would overshoot and I would plan way too far in advance, thinking, you know, motion capture is really expensive, and I would look at some of like the budgets on these things, or you know, I'd see the bills. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like $100,000. Like, yeah, I think I could squeeze it all in one day, you know, and so I would capture just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of motions. I would capture like the entire game in like a few days and think that like, okay, cool, I'm done. Like now we can make this game. And it doesn't really work that way, because then you get back to the studio and then like a couple months later you're ready to work on this particular feature and it's not quite the right speed, or it's not quite, you know, we're going to change a little bit how we're going to do it, or we need these couple extra angles. And so you spend a lot of time trying to fudge the motion capture, or you'll hand key stuff in between and just kind of like really trying to like make it work. Whereas now we've learned to just kind of take it as we go, like have shorter sessions. We try to motion capture about like a couple weeks in advance, or maybe, I mean, and now we're even getting to where like I can capture and the next day it's in the game. So the turnaround is getting a lot faster, where like you kind of like work with what you need at the time, and then instead of like trying to think too far in advance.
See, now the funny thing is I would think, in my head, I would imagine as the technology becomes more advanced, and that would lead to it being more complicated, that you would need to plan more, and that it would make you less maneuverable. But it sounds like you have, you know, if you're working on Uncharted 4, that you have the ability to change what your vision of a scene a whole lot easier than you would have back when you were making Uncharted 1.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of it just become, you know, it's just, you're just comfortable with it. You're used to being out there, you know what you need to do, you know how long it'll take to do it, and we're able to plan that way. I actually have a full day of shooting tomorrow that I haven't even started planning for yet. After we finish this call, then I have to switch gears and do that. We've been capturing non-stop for Uncharted 4 right now. We're calling this the Mocapolypse, just because it's just like literally like every day it's like, okay, what are we shooting tomorrow, what do we need to do? And my week has been like, I'll go to the stage, I'll shoot all day, I'll come back to the studio, I'll deal with whatever is waiting for me here, because there's so much going on in the studio. I mean, I have like 200 emails to get through, and people like talking to me all the time that have been waiting all day to get my time. So I get through all that, and then people start to leave the studio, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, people are leaving me alone. I have to plan for the next day's shoot starting now.
Oh man.
So it's been pretty brutal, but that time will pass. It's especially hard now, but it kind of relaxes a bit once I've gotten everything figured out. Then we have the animators help put it together.
Jeremy, you know, Susan and I were talking about how between Uncharted 1 and 2 and 3, the animation, you were able to shift to a place where you were capturing more of a character in just the way they move, just little ticks. We were talking about Sully specifically. And, you know, Susan, you were noting that here at the very beginning of Uncharted 1, you know, Sully's got some salt and pepper in his hair, but he doesn't look like a dude who could be Nate's dad. He looks fit, he looks young, like, he doesn't look like he's an elderly person. But was that a function of the technology not being able to convey sort of greater subtlety in, you know, what you were capturing of an actor's performance, or was it more intentional sort of as you've moved through the series? Are you able to do more, or?
It's not that necessarily we're able to do more. I mean, we if you look at even the rendering style, that influences a lot in how we animated. Uncharted 1 was never really intended to be photorealistic. We were always going for a very kind of stylized, painterly, something that looks more like concept art. And that was always the intention, and that was kind of our transition from very stylized to something more realistic, but we weren't trying to go for hyper-real. Very aware of the uncanny valley. We're artisans. You know, we wanted to really have everything have that hand-done feel. And even with the motion capture, for the gameplay animation at least, I actually wouldn't want to use all, because we get data for every frame, and you get all these little subtle details. But because we're still doing so much keyframe animation that is mixed with the motion capture, I would actually just take key poses from the motion capture and have the computer kind of interpolate more smoothly in between, and it kind of split the difference between something that was more hand done and something that was photo captured. I think the same with textures. Like, they wouldn't just take a photograph; they would use a photograph for reference, and they start with that, but they're hand painting on top of it. And I think slowly we've gotten more comfortable with getting a little bit more detail, getting a little more realistic. And you see the details. I mean, one, we're able to squeeze more out of the hardware. So instead of just kind of having a smooth face, well, now you're starting to see texture of facial hair. And then we get to the point where now we're actually doing facial hair. And now and a lot of those details start to influence how you animate. Well, suddenly, if you have this more realistically rendered character, you want the movement to match that. And so we're removing less of the detail from the motion capture and kind of retaining the performance. And then as our sensibilities increase, we start to look at more detail. We start to look at the context and care more about these little things that we probably completely overlooked before. Just little subtleties. And one example is the way we were doing Drake's cover idols. You'll actually see a big evolution through all our games on the way that Drake takes cover. So for Uncharted 1, we were trying this new technique that it was new to us, fairly new to the industry, and I think even a lot of people still don't use it a lot, but it's called additive animation. And so you could take an animation, and you can take another animation and basically put them on top of each other. So we could have kind of this base movement where he's just kind of moving around subtly, but then we could take a pose, a single frame of animation, a single pose, and play that on top of that motion to completely change his posture, change what his arms are doing. And so we had this technique.
When you say change the way his arms are moving, you mean contextually, depending on the situation?
Yeah. So in cover, for example, if you take cover in Drake's Fortune, it's going to play one of 155 different poses, different possible poses. So every time you go into cover, it'll be slightly different.
Damn.
And at the time, that was mind-blowing. It's wow, and those animations, because we're doing it as an additive, they're not just a still pose, they actually have movement on there, because we're blending this generic base movement motion on top of each of these individual poses. And so that's how we were able to kind of do that kind of stuff back then. And so we did that for Uncharted 1 and 2, and then Uncharted 3, Travis McIntosh, our lead programmer, was I think I know how to stream animation. I figured out how we can stream animation. And my mind just exploded. What does that mean? What can we do? And so what that meant is you can have an animation that's as long as you want it to be. It could be 10 hours long if you want it to be, because it's taking it all from the disk. It's taking it all from the hard drive. And for animation, memory is the RAM is our biggest limitation. And so we're always trying to come up with ways to add more detail, more animation, but be able to stay within whatever hardware limits we have. And so we had this new thing, streaming animation. And so for Uncharted 3, I went crazy with the type of contextual animations you can do. And so you'll look at the idols, and like whenever he's standing or he's in cover in Uncharted 3, the craziest example I have is in the Burning Chateau. I don't know if you guys remember that level. So,
of course, yeah.
Who does? Okay,
Yeah. Who forgets that?
and doesn't remember it? It's amazing.
that little thing. So when Drake and Sully are outside, Drake is relaxed. Like we call it the relaxed moveset. He's fairly calm. His posture is a little more upright. But then once he gets inside, he's a little bit uneasy, right? And so his posture changes. He's not sneaking around, but he's a little bit more cautious, right? And it's a subtle little thing, but his entire moveset changed once he entered into the chateau. And then he sees some enemies. Well, his posture changes again. Now it's more stealth. Now he's even lower. Now he's quieter. And then he gets into a combat with them. He goes into his combat moveset, which again changes his entire moveset. And then the place starts on fire, and he's coughing, and he's trying to shoot these guys, but there's smoke in the air, and so his moveset changed again. And then he's trying to escape this thing with Sully, and his moveset changes again to, like, escape.
Wow.
So it
Jeremy,
was insane.
It's interesting to hear you talk about how, you got nuts with Uncharted 3. Because, I think Uncharted 3 is a great story, but I played it week one, right when it came out, before the game had been patched, and ran into some of the issues that a lot of people complained about. Like rough aiming, and it just, all of a sudden, this very, very smooth combat from Uncharted 2 felt a little janky.
Right.
Were all of these different animation issues sort of behind that?
No, I mean, I don't think the animation issues weren't kind of part of the aiming. I mean, that was more on the programming side and design tweaks and that kind of thing.
Right. Well, when you say that, like, we've added all of these different contextual elements to it, how does that end up affecting things like the programming and the engineering tweaking that happens? How do you marry these things?
This is, you go to school to learn these things.
Right.
Like you're asking.
The most complicated question in the world.
That's a really.
I know what you're saying. Like, I mean, and that was a learning process for us too. I mean, if you play Drake's Fortune, just moving him around on the stick doesn't feel nearly as good as Uncharted 2. And then, because we learned a lot, like one of the things was the way Drake jumps in Uncharted 1, we had contextual jumps based on the distance. So if he's just kind of like hopping over this little thing, well, of course you just want him to hop over this little thing. But if he's doing this really long jump across this gap, well, it's like you want the animation to be big and have this big, long jump. That sounds great, but one of the things that we learned from Uncharted 1 is that the player really needs that consistency. They want to be able to predict, like, Drake needs to be able to jump like 2 meters every time, because I need to be able to see that thing and just intuitively know that I can make that. And so there's little things like that we learned that we took out of during Uncharted 2. You'll notice that, well, now anytime he jumps over any gap, it's playing the long animation because it needs to be consistent. And as far as like the on the stick movement, for Jack and Daxter, Jack was basically, outside of his animation, he was basically just a ball that you moved around. It was completely procedural. You jump, you can kind of move it around. It was all like Andy Gavin programming this sphere to kind of move around until it felt really good.
That's my new favorite. I just want a headline of that. Like, Naughty Dog says Jack is just a ball.
Jack is just a ball. Jack felt really good. He was really smooth. He was very responsive, and to go from that to say, okay, now make a realistic character that has to move with weight, move with, you know, he needs to feel like he's like 190 pounds, but we want it to feel like Jack and Daxter. It's like those are two opposite things, right? And so that was a really hard problem for us to solve. And it took us a while to kind of like to perfect that. I think we're just now like getting to the point on Uncharted 4 where like, okay, yes, we finally got it. Like we finally got it to where it feels like a ball, but it looks like 200 pounds.
Well, as you've been working...
when you're...
Oh, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, I figured I might say something during the entire hour, Anthony. So when you're talking about all the different animations that you layered into the chateau, you know,
Yeah.
this is his posture when he's resting versus when it's on fire versus when all that.
Yeah.
Do you think that is what registers unconsciously as this is a person with the player,
Yeah.
because as opposed to this is a video game character? Because Nate and Elena and Sully and Chloe, they all come off very much like actual people that you're spending time with, and it's gotten more and more like that with each progressive game.
Yeah. I mean, and it is that subconscious thing. I mean, it was one of those, even with that in particular, I haven't really talked about it much. I mean, it was all kind of like an internal studio thing that I was pushing, but I haven't really talked about it much publicly. And I was kind of waiting to see it. I was curious, like, is anyone going to notice? And if they notice, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know? But yeah, like all of that is just this subtle little subconscious thing that we have to bleed over, but it makes a believable character.
How do you even recognize that stuff? Like, how much do you have to study the movement of a person to know that, okay, their body posture is a little different when they're a little afraid versus because these are really subtle nuances. Like Jack, you could be super cartoony because he's a cartoon, but these are actual people. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the sensibilities of an animator. I mean, that's something that, you know, I'm sure a lighting artist looks at, like, they'll stare into a corner and look at a shadow and see stuff that nobody else sees. You know, as an animator, we're just staring at people until they smack us and say, what are you looking at?
But not in a creepy way. It's totally...
Yeah, not the creepy way. Of course not the creepy way.
Not unsettling.
You know, so, but yeah, like that's what we notice. That's what we care about. And it's something that as an animator and as an animator who is directing actors, I've had to learn that you have to approach those things 100% different. As an animator, I'm used to manipulating from the outside. Like, I know in my head what I want sad to look like, right? And so I pose it to look like sad. You know, slump the shoulders down, you know, whatever you want to do. With an actor, they come from the inside out, right? And so for them, you need to be, you can't just say, you know, it would look better if you could slump your shoulders more. Because it won't, you know what I mean? Like, it just won't come off as a believable performance.
Right.
And it was hard for me. It's still hard for me because like my sensibilities is like I've got like these two like inside. I like, you know, make them slump the shoulders more. We look better if they slump the shoulders more. It's like, no, bad person in my head. You know, try to manipulate them into like really understanding like the moment and to go with whatever it is that they come up with, you know. So yeah.
So given that you're giving so much attention to all of the heroes and the villains, the major characters, do you have to kind of cheat a little bit with the minions? You're like, you got 3 minion animations. There's the guy who runs this way, the guy who runs that way.
Susan,
and
how can you not tell the difference between guy in sunglasses, guy in hat and sunglasses, bearded guy in sunglasses? They're very distinctive characters.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they're a whole different type of problem that you need to solve because they need to be readable. You need to be able to know when they get hit and when they don't get hit, and when they need to be able to kind of call out what their next action is going to be, and you need to be able to read them from like 5 pixels across this. They need to be 5 pixels high, and you can still totally see what's going on.
Oh wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? So for their performance, it becomes a much more exaggerated. In that sense, and even that is something that we have learned, like what works, what doesn't work, that we just kind of learn over the years. I remember a funny, it was a video clip on Uncharted 1 where we were trying this thing with the enemies. They had these dodge animations, and somebody put the whole thing to like Thriller music. I was crying. It was so funny. Like, totally. Like, oh yeah.
Jeremy, do you ever find yourself, after this long, finding yourself just thirsting to sort of get back to non-human characters? Do you miss working on characters that are at heart just a ball, and you can stretch and do strange things with?
Yeah, sometimes. We've been kind of like so grounded now, and we're becoming more and more grounded that The Last of Us, when that was kind of early in development, I think a lot of people were like, oh, what does that mean? We're gonna like do all these like big things, and it's like, well, actually, Last of Us is going to be even more grounded than Uncharted, and it was, and it felt really good. It's interesting, kind of the differences between now we've got Uncharted and The Last of Us, and those are they're their own personalities.
They're very distinct. I remember seeing those very first images of Joel and Ellie and thinking like, oh, well, I can see like it's going to be Uncharted with zombies, and then when you actually have your hands on that game and you're watching it, they couldn't. They're very, very different. They're very different things.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing. Like, well, would Uncharted 4 be, The Last of Us with explosions?
Right.
But it's just not, and we've been really careful to kind of own Uncharted for what Uncharted is. Like, Uncharted is big. Uncharted is this big adventure, and just colorful and beautiful and inspiring, and it just makes you like have that like, I just want to explore. I just want to like move around this space, and it's kind of like the happy place.
To use a word that gets thrown around a lot, it's a romp.
Yeah. I
mean, it is. It's just. Yeah. Although I do really like.
It's your like high adventure summer blockbuster. No, absolutely, and we totally own that.
It is a grinning game. Last of Us, not as many grins involved.
You don't feel the happy good times, Susan, when you play Last of Us?
The Last of Us has some of the most beautiful and emotionally powerful moments of joy because the rest of it is so dismal.
Yeah, it's true. But the giraffe scene. The giraffe scene,
forget about it. One of the best scenes in video games ever.
And it's a type of emotional extremity that is completely different than what Uncharted offers.
For sure, yeah.
There's never that moment in Last of Us where you're like, oh my god, Joel is hanging out of the back of an airplane. How is he going to get out of this one? Like, that's not there. But alternately, Uncharted never gives you that moment of just like utter relief and sort of awe at the human experience.
Yeah. And that's something that we have carried on both games is kind of the highs and lows. We really care about pacing. There's a lot of games that we play that you're on 10 all the time. It's like everything's exploding, everything's doing this thing, and it's like it never stops. And not to throw Transformers under the bus, not the game Transformers, but the movie, like it's just all action all the time, right? And you just start to like, okay, you gloss over it, and there's something about just pacing it right where you really kind of build up to those big set piece moments, and then once you get to that set piece, like you really need to kind of slow it down and just calm yourself, and so we really like play the story with those arcs.
Speaking of set pieces, can we talk about the falling building in Uncharted 2 with the helicopter, with the, because it's just one of my favorite moments in gaming ever.
Yeah.
Did you, was that like it comes up in the storyboards and you're like, guys, are you kidding? Really? This is what you want us to animate?
Yeah.
Really? Like, talk about that.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, for us, that was kind of a new type of a boss fight. Where you're used to boss fights. It's like you get to the end of the level, and there's this giant character that's like nowhere anywhere else. You need to fight them. And so we were kind of playing around with like, well, what does it have to be like that? Why, can it just be this kind of big moment? This more difficult area, but like the helicopter was a boss, the tech that went into that, like just getting these characters to move on these moving objects. I mean, that the train was kind of something that we had figured out early on, that we wanted a real moving train that kind of moved through the environment, and that took like almost the entire production cycle to like get that to work technically.
Oh wow.
And then, we go to Uncharted 3 and we're like, no, we're going to have a cruise ship that like, and the cruise ship is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like it technically.
I'm very glad to hear you saying out loud that is ridiculous. Because I remember the first time I played it, those were the exact words that came out of my mouth.
It was so awesome, though. It was so awesome.
It's like, it is Uncharted, like, at its best. But, like, technically, we have an entire level floating on an ocean simulation.
Yep.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I don't know why we did that. It was just because we're Naughty Dog, and, why not? Yeah, that took a long time to get all those bugs out. And there were like all these like little one-frame glitch things that you're just like, oh my gosh, like why didn't we just keep the world flat and like move the sky?
See, do you ever like? Are there ever moments though where you run into something like a glitch? You're like, wow, that's not how an ocean moves, and you just say, why not? Let's keep it that way because it plays well. Like, do you ever sacrifice what you would perceive as, the perfect look or the perfect animation just to make sure that it just still feels good?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, gameplay trumps everything. And so that's the other hat that I need to wear, sometimes having something feel really good goes counter to making him feel like he's 200 pounds, for example. If you were to run around and try to actually like get somebody to move completely realistically, it's going to be really slow. You're just going to be like, oh my gosh, like get me to the freaking like building here. It's just not going to feel good. And so we absolutely like make lots of little compromises and try to get the best of both, but ultimately gameplay, getting it to feel good is what we care the most about, and what we should care.
We were talking about this before you came on. Like, there's real reality, and then there's the essence of reality. Like Nathan Drake's cardio.
He's an Olympian.
Like Usain Bolt would be like, wow, bro, you're amazing. Like, So,
and his grip strength, too.
Oh, God, insane! Insane! His grip strength, he's got to be on Ultimate Warrior next season, because, so, yeah, like, I get what you're saying about wanting something to feel good versus this is what it would actually be for a, 190-pound man running at speed. Get out the physics.
I mean, sometimes he's got to pee, too, and we don't include that.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, confirmed, Uncharted 4 has Nathan Drake going to the bathroom.
Yes.
Okay, can I go off on a somewhat. This isn't something nobody ever talks about, but I really do need to know the intricacies of anime. Like, do you have to consider his crotch area?
Yeah.
Because we spend a lot of because of the half tuck and the belt buckle, it is a focal point.
Yeah, and the climbing areas, you're looking at his buttocks a lot. You're looking right up into this where all the geometry pinches together. So yeah, that's something that we get better at every game. How to add just more layers of it. This is all kind of more on the rigging side, where they're able to like make it look more like cloth and try to fix those areas. The shoulders are another really difficult area to get right.
Why are shoulders so tough?
Well, there's just so many kind of different types of ways that you can move your arm, twist it and move it up, and it's just one of those, like, it's probably one of the most difficult things to get right on a CG character, and with kind of a pre-rendered film where they don't have to be real time, well, they just add like 1,000 joints and like all this extra math to do it, and that's something that with the PlayStation 4 we're able to get even further with that, and so yeah, every game we come up with new clever ways to push it just a little bit further and focus on details that we couldn't do before.
Is there ever
like
a moment...
like moving chest hair?
Yep.
Like moving chest hair.
I had never thought about Nathan Drake's chest hair before.
Yeah.
And now I have to, because I know it moves in the wind.
See,
yeah.
Susan, that's another one where if you would ask me, I would have said that Nathan Drake like waxes.
Oh,
like,
he does not.
Like Elena comes in there and she's like, you gotta get that covered, that rug.
No.
Gotta lock it down.
He's not a swimmer. He's not waxing.
He swims a lot, but he swims with his shoes on, which is an odd choice.
That's true.
Another gameplay choice.
another
Putting
yeah.
wet socks on minigame, butt mash.
When you're running from mercenaries, you're not going to take the time to remove your boots.
No.
Plus, also, it's true, in hiking, rule number 1, don't take off your boots until you're ready to stop for the day.
Right.
Because you won't get them back on.
Although you don't think Nate has like a nice pair of Vibrams? He does like the toe things.
Okay, that would be kind of amazing, actually.
DLC, man. Cosmetic DLC. Get the Vibram license. We're through the looking glass here. Jeremy, has there ever been something that you guys have like been looking at it? You were talking about setting things on a fully simulated ocean, but is there ever something where you're like, no, that's ridiculous. That's too silly, even for the outsized nature of Uncharted.
Volcano.
Yeah, well, we always, joke that, it'll be in space someday, or, that everything he touches kind of crumbles under him. But no, I mean, I think as far as technical challenge, we tend to take on most things that we can come up with. Like most things that we kind of pride ourselves in what we're able to achieve technically, and a lot of that really helps in the gameplay. I mean, just the train sequence, getting Drake to be able to move on moving objects opens us up to so many new things that we can do now, and we're able to do kind of smaller moments that we're able to use that same tech. It doesn't have to be a train or a cruise ship or a plane. It can be rocks that he's moving on or things that he's climbing on that can shift. But it's all kind of that same tech that was required.
Now, see, that's really interesting, because normally, I mean, as just a player, I would expect if you develop tech, then the goal is always to make it work towards something bigger and grander and more splashy. But it wouldn't have occurred to me that you did this big, massive, ridiculous level, and now you're using that tech again to make things feel more natural and small.
Yeah, because you want him to feel part of the environment. You want him to feel grounded in the environment. So, yeah, I mean, all of that kind of just translates everywhere. Yeah.
Jeremy, I know that this is, this is a remastered version of Uncharted 1, that it's not like some kind of crazy new version of the game. Are there any new animations or anything that I'm running into here? I don't remember Nate being able to drop kick somebody in Uncharted 1, but then again, it's been 5 years since I played this game, so...
Yeah, no, the animations are intact. We're able to kind of move the cover system and normalize it across all games. So like the aiming and the cover have been added to Uncharted 1, things that weren't there before.
Okay, that explains a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that, we go back on, I'm like, oh, we wish you could change that. Like we're able to kind of like, and Bluepoint did all this work for us. We're able to kind of like normalize cover throughout the game, so it feels consistent. It's not going to feel different, each game. And aiming, the baseball grenade. We took out the 6-axis from Uncharted.
Yeah, did you notice before I was trying to force myself to fall off the log to see if I could still fall off the log?
Right.
Susan, you keep on the 6-axis, right?
I died so many times on that effing log. And I do not blame you guys for this at all, because at that time, every PS3 game had to have some kind of 6-axis stuff shoehorned into it. So I don't blame you. I'm not mad. I'm just saying, I died a lot.
There's actually one feature in Drake's Fortune that we didn't ship with. We had an entire underwater sequence, and we had that working on the 6-axis, and that was actually kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah, like that felt
How did that
good.
work?
Well, you'd kind of, if you want to dive down, you'd kind of tilt your controller down, you tilt it up.
Swimming? Were you in a submersible?
No. It was like a scuba diving type thing.
Oh, cool.
Thought I was gonna get.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like that was to me that was like the most successful use that I think that we had tried internally of 6-axis. But we're kind of adopted the mentality that we just want to do what's best for the game. If there's any pressure to kind of like get this feature in and use the move control or use something else, like if it doesn't fit our game, we're not going to do it.
Jeremy, what was your guys' collaboration with Bluepoint like? Bluepoint has so much experience making this sort of collection at this point. It's been, God, it's baffling to me that it's been 6-7 years since we saw that first collection, the God of War collection from them. But, were you in constant contact? Was it daily stuff, or were they just sort of left on their own, and you're like, we trust you, have at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of trust there. Most of the studio was focused on Uncharted 4, and we're still like, 100% focused on Uncharted 4 right now. So there was definitely a lot of trust there. There was a lot of collaboration, I think, from the higher ups. Evan was involved, and I think from kind of like a large macro standpoint, there were things that we wanted them to incorporate and everything, but they were able to really kind of run with it, and they did just an amazing job.
I'm sitting here trying to decide, do I want the shotgun? I don't want the shotgun.
Why do you not want the shotgun? The shotgun is awesome.
Because I'm keeping it real with this machine gun, Susan.
Oh,
do
God.
Do you see how well I've acquitted myself on normal?
You're very good at video games.
Yeah, I'm real good at video games. Nobody needs
impressed.
easy.
I mean, you're talking to me, you're playing games, you're multitasking like the best.
That's what I like. I like impressing. See, Jeremy, that's usually like the PR side of video games. I usually have somebody telling me, "Oh, I've never seen somebody do that before in a game."
Yeah.
But to have the animator say, "You're doing all right," that warms my cockles, man. That makes me feel good about things. So tell me, like, Jeremy,
since you just did the shimmying across the ledges thing, one thing I want to comment on, and again, this is as a player, it's something I just internalize, and I don't really... I notice it, but I don't know that I notice it, is that Nate looks like he has weight as he hangs there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his body is heavy, and so it looks like it has actual weight, which if instead of him just kind of being on the ledge, but now that we've been talking to you for the past hour, I can see that and appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Ooh, I fell off the waterfall right after talking about how good I was.
How good you are at video games? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I
Well,
landed.
let's be
See
honest.
what you guys are playing. What are you playing exactly? This is Drake's Fortune?
No, I'm playing Drake's Fortune, and I'm right... Oh, yeah, we're right in the middle of the 4th chapter, I'm gonna say. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not to the
He
ruins
actually
yet.
is. He's doing pretty well.
So you're in the waterfall section where there's a combat in the waterfalls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. You know, so you just passed what our vertical slice was on Drake's Fortune. So we call it Jungle A2. It's our little internal name for that level. But you know when you kind of climb down into that kind of like lower area, and there's like a bunch of pillars.
Oh yeah.
And there's enemies around those pillars. You probably just passed that area. I'm assuming,
I
right?
got through it. I got through it.
Yes. So that was our first, like, fully fleshed out level in the Uncharted franchise.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like, so Uncharted. So Drake's Fortune took about 3 years of total production. So the first year of that was pre-production. That was while the rest of the company was working on Jack X and then our Jack PSP game that we never finished. And then the second year, like that's when we figured out like, okay, we're making this game. It's going to be Uncharted. We come out with that. I don't know if you guys remember back it was in 2006. We released a trailer at E3. We didn't even have the title yet. It was just Naughty Dog. So this is the Naughty Dog game. So we're going from that where we're like, okay, we know kind of what the character is going to be like. We know what he's going to move like. That was just kind of like us, kind of like that was our previs in a sense of like this is the game that we think we want to make here. And now we have to actually make it real. Actually make this trailer into a real game. And so that took a year of like we were working on Jungle A2 for the longest time. And it was actually a really dark period of Naughty Dog because prior to that time, we had such a low turnover rate, like people would never quit. We hired very rarely and people wouldn't leave very often. Maybe like one person per year might leave or something. It was like a really big deal. Like, oh wow, we wish you well. And then so then we had to transition from everyone in the studio was hired for their ability to do cartoony, stylized, that type of genre. We're transitioning into now we need to do more realistic work. So we're hiring a lot of new people that are able to kind of do that. So they're kind of new to Naughty Dog, new to our production and how we work. And so kind of like during that time, that second year into it, on that Jungle level, we were getting to the point where all these kind of new people just lost faith. They were like,
wow.
We're never going to finish this game. You guys are screwed. You've bitten off way more than you can chew. Good luck to you. I don't want to kill myself for this.
Wow.
And it was like every single week, even to the point that it was almost every day, someone was like turning in their resume and they're like, I'm done. Like, good luck.
Jeez.
And I think over the course of a couple months, like 50, it was like 30 or 50 people. No, it couldn't be 50. It was at least 30 people quit.
That's insane.
Oh my god.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was like, wow. It was disheartening in some senses. And then but then there was like some of us that had been there for a long time. It's like we know that it's hard. We know that the first game of a franchise is really hard. It was the first game on a system. It was going to be a challenge, but we kind of knew that like we'll pull this off. We don't know how we're going to pull it off, but we'll pull it off. It's going to be awesome.
Man, so like, did that galvanize the team? Like, were you just like, like everybody who stayed behind were like, we're here, we're gonna do this.
Yes. Yeah. It really kind of like, you know, split the team into like, okay, you're either gonna like leave or you're gonna make this awesome. You're gonna make this work. And
So, okay, I have to ask then. So when the game comes out, and it's amazing, and it's incredibly well received, were you just kind of at least maybe a little bit in your mind going, suckers?
yeah, a little bit. You know, I think it was a little bit more just a sigh of relief. It was just like, oh my gosh, it didn't suck. Like people really liked it, you know. You know, because you know you're trying to like stay strong and hope that you're making the right decisions and.
Which you clearly did.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man,
Game
like
is awesome.
it's the game. This is when people started saying, "All right, yeah, now you can get a PlayStation 3." Like, it was.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
That was the game that people were like, "All right, fine. Well, maybe this isn't, you know." Before, Ken Kutaragi was a little crazy with that "you're gonna want to get a second job" thing, but now I'm kind of thinking about a second job sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it was also
I think that's what's. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
It was just a great game to watch someone play.
Yeah.
Which there was not a huge amount of at the time, but it was fun to play. It was fun to watch someone do it because it really was like an Indiana Jones movie.
Wait a second. Susan, are you telling me that like people weren't just like all about watching Ridge Racer 7?
Oddly, no.
Just no, that wasn't the jam. Jeremy, we have just a couple of minutes left, and I just wanna thank you so much for taking the time. You know, out of like you are making a tentpole exclusive for the PlayStation 4 right now, and you've spent an hour with us talking about this 7-year-old game. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and it's been really kind of exciting to see the Uncharted collection come out. You know, like there's just so much history there, for both the fans of the franchise, but then there's so many new people to kind of the PlayStation universe. You know, with the PlayStation 4, I have no idea what the numbers are, but like there's so many people that came from other systems, or this is their first console, and so they don't have that kind of history of like the Uncharted franchise was like the PlayStation 3 game. And so it's just really kind of cool to kind of introduce that to them and give them an opportunity to play it, and it's just in time for Uncharted 4, to really kind of catch them up. So yeah, it's been really exciting to see it, and I can't wait for everyone to be able to play it and get a little piece of Naughty Dog history there.
Jeremy, the half-tuck is still there in Uncharted 4, right?
There's parts of it there, yeah.
there is some There's our headline, Susan. Half-tuck confirmed.
Look, it's not Nate Drake without the half-tuck.
Yeah,
Come on.
It's not.
Right.
Like, what are you gonna do? Put him in an Oxford shirt? Come on.
Nathan Drake, nothing but polo shirts from here on out.
Cargo shorts, man.
Cargo shorts and
flip-flops.
A thief's demise in the wardrobe. That's the darkest of alternate titles. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us for this stream. If you have not done so already, we encourage you to go click that little heart at the bottom of the screen and follow us so that you know when we go live. We will be back with many more streams next week. We're going to have on How It's Done next Thursday. I am going to be gone, but Susan is going to be here with Ludwig Kitzman playing a fascinating game called Bedlam. Which, if you have not heard of Bedlam, you will remember it after this. Really cool sort of metatextual, weird, crazy tour through the history of games. It's a tie-in with a novel of the same name, and we're going to have the author, Christopher Brookmeyer, with us. So that is next Thursday. You can see the little schedule of what we're doing Monday through Thursday on your screen now. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. You were amazing.
Yeah.